All right. Hi, everybody. So we're here to discuss power, right? I'm going to read the prompt real quick. That way we can just go over it really quickly. So it's please discuss with your group members situations in which you have employed various sources of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower, and discuss the ways in which cultural differences may influence the way we interact with leaders and employ power. So my example, it talks about expert power. I don't know if you guys remember last week I talked about a store that I was just a lead in, and once I left, everyone else left because they didn't want to be without me. And it actually has to deal with the expert power. I was the guy that kind of knew everything. I went there to fix a lot of things, and a lot of my baristas were really like drawn to me because I was the one that was explaining everything, because the current manager at the time didn't really know much. They were very new. And so they looked at me as the person that knew more. And so they would actually listen to what I was doing. And that was really interesting because all of a sudden, the person that's actually like has legitimate power isn't the real person in power. It's the person that just happens to know a little bit more and can maybe explain things to newer people and things like that. So that was a really interesting firsthand experience. So we'll go around the table and we'll talk about power. Yeah. Let's go in the order of the video again. Donna, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I actually have a question based off your example, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, no problem. Go for it.
How willing was that store manager in receiving the knowledge that you had to pass on? So then that could have eliminated a lot of the turnaround that you saw once you left.
That is a great question. She was almost completely against listening to me because I didn't have a legitimate power because I was just a shift supervisor. She refused to listen to me. Whereas all of the other baristas were obviously willing to listen to me because I had slight power, but as a shift supervisor, you really don't have much power. The store manager just refused to listen to anything I did, even though I did the company for 7 or so years, and she didn't want to listen to me. So she just kind of ignored everything I had to say, and it reflected a lot on her. Whenever as people started leaving, she was kind of had to get her act together a little bit and maybe start listening to others that maybe just knew a little bit more. But yeah, she was almost completely hesitant to listen to anything I had to say.
That's a challenge too, because going into a company like Starbucks is so culturally different that you're used to having more legitimate power experience when you're outside the company than inside the company.
Yep.
For myself, thank you for answering that question. For myself, I am kind of my power experiences are a combination of referent power and legitimate power. I do work for Starbucks as store manager. I had a district manager when I first rejoined the company over 5 years ago. That was one of the most amazing, inspiring district managers I've ever had in my entire career, just managing overall. And I keep her in mind with all the decisions that I make for my team. So one of the things that the referent power refers to in the book is if you ask someone for a favor, quote unquote favor. And over time, if you keep asking for that favor, eventually they're going to become tired and not want to do that favor anymore. Without realizing it, my staff and my partners helped me out, and I didn't realize it was because of the respect that they have for me. It wasn't until one person said that they really don't like working Sundays. I'm like, but you have availability on Sundays. And they said that that's because I do it for you. And it was kind of touching to me that they really respected me in that way. They really want to be part of the team. I took over a store almost 2 years ago that was not teamwork based at all. So for everyone to come together and just want to help each other out day in, day out, that was huge for me. So that kind of really solidified the combination of those two powers for me.
Nice. Anyone have any discussion to go further with that or questions?
Nope, not for me.
That was a great example, Donna. It's also nice to know that you were a Starbucks partner. I didn't realize that from the first week.
It took me about, because the company I came from before Starbucks, we were called partners as well, but not treated as such at all. It took me at least a good year and a half for when people were asking, like, well, how do you feel that I fully understood and believed that they wanted to know how I felt. And that it wasn't just the typical like, oh, how you doing today? Oh, good. Anyway, and then move on to more business type discussion that they actually did care. So that, like I said, it's a huge culture shock. And sometimes when you do have legitimate power, you kind of guard it if that's the only power you have.
And I think,
you become very self-aware at that point, and you become very defensive of that power being challenged.
And that's, I think, a perfect parallel to what Max stepped into when he moved over to the other store, and the other leader didn't want to give it up.
Yeah, she just kept defending her legitimate power. Anyway,
She lost out. She missed out on opportunity. That, I mean, you had knowledge just because you didn't have that, that manager title. I mean,
and that goes into being a bad manager. She's not, or being a bad leader. She's choosing to do something that probably would hurt her in the long run versus to tie it into previous weeks, instead of like just listening maybe just a little bit and just being a better leader. Sometimes you have to sit down, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, all right, good discussion. All right, on to Eva. Eve?
So I was leaning more, not so much on power, but the diversity, because I work on a university campus. So I believe that diversity is about empowering others. So that's kind of what I focused on. And as it makes an organization effective by capitalizing on everyone's strength, not just, those who are of the majority. I believe that it's imperative for leaders to show an appreciation for diversity in the workplace, as it fosters a supportive environment and enables the environment to feel comfortable for people to communicate freely. As it stated in the text, where was it? On page 330, that successful leaders recognize and respond to cultural differences, adapting their behaviors to meet cultural expectations. They also strive for cultural synergy. In cultural synergy, decision makers draw on the diversity of the group and the cultural awareness to produce and implement a better than expected solution. With all these different perspectives, of course, you're going to have a more, powerful solution. So with my experience, as I stated, I work, I deal with diversity on a daily basis. I work on at ASU. I wouldn't say a university, but ASU, to be specific. And they welcome such differences as socioeconomic backgrounds, the religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, disability, whether you're military, like a veteran, and intellectual perspectives. So there's a lot of diversity within just that square mile on campus. And although I enjoy expanding my knowledge of the uniqueness of others, I personally have witnessed in different departments throughout the campus that it can be challenging. And for like an example, a staff member getting frustrated due to a language barrier, or a student or a staff member, the exchange between a student and maybe a professor, a gesture might be misconstrued because, it's accepted within where they're from, but then here on our campus, it's, conceived as rude. So,
if you don't mind me stepping in.
No.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's Starbucks. It's very similar. We are so acceptive of many different types of people coming in and working, and having different cultural backgrounds can play a toll on power and things like that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But they encourage workshops, diversity workshops, which may, provide awareness and understanding and the tools to manage these diversity-related issues and needs of a diversified campus. So that was just my input, but it was mainly focused on diversity and empowering, others as a collective. So,
any questions?
No, I do like to take on the empowerment aspect as opposed to just power. That was nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Agreed. Awesome. All right, moving on over to Heather.
Okay, I'm going to talk about authoritative and autonomous power, but with power distance. So I grew up in a very small town called Kunkletown. I lived in a cornfield. So
Come again. What was that?
Kunkletown. Yeah, it's a real place. But we have the world's largest ShopRite, and that was like the thing to do. And I worked there because it was the only place to work within 45 minutes. And I had a single mom, so like I really needed my job to like survive. And a lot of the people who worked there were very wealthy. They kind of just did it because it was the thing to do, believe it or not. And a lot of that caused a lot of problems because with like the wealth and the status and the power, they were able to kind of hold that over anyone who wasn't wealthy enough to do things. So like there was like this clique of people, and they were very, very nasty to everyone, and they used their power in the completely wrong way. They would make you work when you didn't want to work, you weren't signed up to work, but if you didn't come in, then they would fire you. And a lot of people really needed the job to survive. And it was the only place to work within 45 minutes. I'm not kidding, Kunkletown. So I really had to kind of just deal with it. And it was so terrible because they just only cared about themselves, and they really used their status to intimidate me and other people. And it was a very bad kind of leadership to come from. And I always vowed to never let myself be like that with anybody, and to never move back to Kunkletown. But the leadership.
So how was it received from others that work there?
It was the place to be, and that sounds so silly, but these people wanted to work there so badly, so they were willing to be mean and be snotty so that they could fit in and have friends and go hang out with people. But I mean, if you're that kind of person, then it really
there was no one to challenge the process, to challenge the leadership, to maybe talk to them, to encourage them to go another, just status quo, huh?
I wish. The leadership were the owners, so I couldn't even complain to them about themselves. They were the HR department. So after 2.5 years, I just quit as soon as I could go to college and get out.
That's
nice.
That's too bad.
I'm talking on the not being able to like properly complain about things. Definitely relatable. Before I actually worked at Starbucks, I was a summer camp counselor, and it was a very small camp. And the owner was just running it into the ground, and I tried giving him just a little bit of feedback, and he just pushed it right away. He was just like, no, I'm just going to pass on that. And I actually just found out last year his camp is no longer operating, so that was kind of funny.
There's a reason.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a reason you should listen to other people sometimes.
The manager,
right,
the new manager, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anything else on that one? No, that was a good one. I like that one. All right. Josh, on to you.
All right. So I have personal and professional experience with just about all of these. And it's hard to really pick one because like within my own home, I obviously have my two sons. So coercive power reigns supreme here. In fact, like even today, my kids are on spring break through today, and I came home on lunch breaks and stuff and instructed them, hey, after a certain time, no more PlayStation, no more phones, no more TV. I want you to go outside. It's 77 degrees. It's beautiful. Go play. And I come home early this afternoon, earlier than normal, and come into them on the PlayStation and got to the bottom of it. And the consequence is there's no PlayStation for the next 2 weeks. And it's unfortunate. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to resort to coercive power, and that the referent power, you know, they should love me. I'm their father. They have much experience with me, and I figured I had built a rapport with my own children, but it didn't work. So I'm exercising my coercive power with them. But as far as the others, I definitely see legitimate power, expert power, and ecological power at work. Unfortunately, oftentimes they're expressed and used in the wrong manner. I do have some great leaders at work, but I also have leaders at work that aren't using their power in an appropriate manner, where legitimate power steps in and they think that they have more clout than they do just because of the position they hold. And unfortunately, it goes the same way with the expert power. Is the people that have the information, that are very good at their job, they hit a glass ceiling. So there's a lot of respect for those people within our organization. It's kind of inverse. You would figure that the supervisors and managers would be the most respected of the bunch, but in fact, it's the people who we kind of jokingly say actually do the work, who know our manuals inside and out and the processes and how to make things go. Those are the ones that are far more often the respected ones in our company. But even going down to the ecological power, we deal with technology constantly in the improvement of process. And one example is just recently we got 26-inch touchscreen monitors because we review developer plans, and you can write on them. And technology has advanced greatly in the last few years, from when you used to sign a credit card receipt and your signature was barely legible to now you can write and it is perfect on the screen. It looks just how your scribe would look if you're using an ink pen. Well, we have those now, and the investment on those, because it said that it could be potentially costly. Well, it was. That monitor was $3,000 per person, and we have like 300 people that do similar work that I do throughout our company. So the outlay was huge. And the people that have the control over the technology and the rollout, they have that ecological power, and have to make those big decisions on expenditures and such. Yeah.
I really liked your example with your parenting, by the way, actually, with having coercive power and you're hoping that they love you. I thought that was really funny. I remember like whenever I was growing up, like, me and my parents, we didn't get along entirely, but you don't have to, right?
Right.
They would actually use like rewards and things like that. Like if I did my homework and I got good grades, they would use like reward power, and that was like their power over me. It was like, oh, you got good grades, great, here's $5, congratulations. It like actually helped me a little bit, even though it would have been nice to have a little bit more love, but whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think the parent dynamic power, I think that was actually a really good bring up.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments?
No, not from me.
All right. Well, then I guess we will end it there. Good job, everybody.
Yeah, good job. A lot of good examples.
Yes, thank you.